I'm David Cruz. Yeah, I don't think yet, as we said yesterday, I just don't think it is registering with you yet this sequester is a real thing. And the fact is that he said this is not some abstract political difference of opinion. This is truly job destruction in a very real sense. In a very real sense. Listen to this.
There are too many Republicans in Congress right now who refuse to compromise even an inch when it comes to closing tax loopholes and special interest tax breaks. And that's what's holding things up right now. Keep in mind, nobody's asking them to raise income tax rates. All we're asking is to consider closing tax loopholes and deductions that the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, said he was willing to do just a few months ago. He said there were a bunch of loopholes and deductions you could close. Said you could raise $800 billion, $1 trillion by closing loopholes. Well, we're not even asking for that much. All we're asking is that they close loopholes for the well-off and the well-connected, for hedge fund managers, or oil companies, or corporate jet owners who are all doing very well and don't need these tax loopholes, so we can avoid laying off workers or kicking kids off Head Start or reducing financial aid for college students. I don't think that's too much to ask. I do not think that is partisan. The majority of the American people agree with me. The majority of Newport News agrees with me. We need to get this done.
So to really get clarity, we've asked our own sequester analyst, Peter Mathews, to join us again. Professor Mathews, Cypress College, thanks for being here.
Great to be here, Dave. How are you today?
With a little bit more clarity on the specifics of the sequester, you were kind enough to join us earlier this week, and you spent several segments with us. So as this thing draws near, we are now a mere few hours from it. We are at 6 hours and 41 minutes and 50 seconds. Yeah. Sir, I didn't think it would get to this. You may have thought so. I was still thinking these guys were playing chicken, and at the last moment, somebody would wake up. Now, what do you say?
I say that it's going to go through, definitely, and we've already had the results of it started. 5,000 crew member aircraft carrier Truman has been stopped. The deployment for them stopped. It was supposed to go from Norfolk to the Persian Gulf, and that's been stopped now. It's to save $300 million, excuse me. That's a lot of money they're going to save. So that's already started. The decision made not to send them to the Persian Gulf, which leaves only one aircraft carrier there, and also a guided missile cruiser was not deployed. Well, it was supposed to be deployed. So it's already started, Dave. There's no doubt about it. It's going to happen.
How do we get, though, Professor, how do we get the average person to relate to it? I just had somebody, apparently someone who may be in civil service, tell us that, well, you know, it's not going to happen to me till mid-April. We get furloughed one day. I think he said a month. Let's see here. And it just seems like we're still, let's see, 1 day a week. That's not anything to sneeze at. I mean, if you're losing a day of work a week, that's going to be felt in the pocketbook.
It adds up, yes.
I've
got some numbers for you here.
Okay, go.
Leon Panetta, the defense secretary,
sure.
Former one, who's announced that he's still in place. Leon Panetta said $46 billion cut to defense. I mean, 800,000 civilian employees furloughed for up to 22 days in the next 6 months. 20% pay cut. That's what it comes out to be, Dave. So he might say, well, it won't happen until April. He's right about that. They may not start till April 4th. But once it starts, you're looking at about 20% pay cut over a period of 6 months. And that's a lot of money. That's demoralizing for a lot of people.
Is it, you think, that because it's a staggered effect rather than you and I with the smart meter now, you don't pay your bill, boom, the smart meter turns off. There is a switch. Right, the switch is flipped. Things happen. All right. Or you don't pay your cable bill, it goes off. All right. Here they're telling us, well, it's going to be in stages. Well, you know, so maybe people are being lulled like lobster in a simmering pot, and then the heat's turned up. Your take, sir?
My take is that it's slowly being turned up, and it is staggered, and that's the problem why people aren't waking up. Look at this one. Cuts in maintenance of warships already ordered, and airplanes, 25 ships and 470 aircraft, which means if you don't replace the O-rings, you'll have to replace the engines of those planes and ships. That's the stuff that's happening already. And so you're right. The temperature is being turned up slowly, and people haven't felt it fully yet. But the slow temperature rise will become increasingly faster and faster as more people feel it. And believe me, there'll be a reaction.
Professor Peter Mathews with us. Professor, I am just now seeing a breaking story that is coming out that talks to us about aerospace industries. You've been touching on DOD expenditures, the military. Now you have, of course, within that pot of money, you have many companies that depend on services to the military. They're estimating that $3.2 billion in California alone in defense budget cuts in the aerospace industry. As you pointed out, the gaskets and so forth. That's going to be a lot of people laid off or their hours sharply curtailed.
Absolutely correct, and that's a lot of money for one state. But it's starting to happen already, and when that happens, you're going to see some real pain. People are going to scream. But here's the thing, Dave. If you do this, people can't plan their lives. You know, they have to make house payments.
Yeah.
And they're going to take that kind of cut, and they won't recover that money because it's going to be a furlough, or it'll be laying off completely, or for a short time, until the contracts come back. Also, the cost of cutting the contract, the cost of canceling contracts will fall to the government and the taxpayer even more. And one more thing, what IRS? What about that, Dave? The IRS is going to get a $435 million cut, which means $1.7 billion loss in tax collection.
I just cannot believe that they're not going to make every effort, once this thing is passed, to turn on the screws even more and double back and make sure that they make up for those losses, because you cannot bleed losses like that without having severe long-term consequences. I guess I sound like the parrot reiterating what you just said a little bit differently, but I can't believe the IRS would leave any money on the table, sir.
They certainly shouldn't, because the government needs every bit of that money to pay for the school programs like Pell Grants and Head Start. Look at this, Dave. There was a planned pay raise for troops in Afghanistan, and the troops in the field will take a 50% cut in their pay raise. That's already been
50%?
Cut in the pay raise that was promised them, yes.
Well, if that happens, okay, Professor, if that happens, then you know and I know that the mortgage lenders, again, are going to see a whole slew of defaults coming up on their property rolls because, or on their list of mortgage accounts, because that's what happened before. People, as they started losing jobs in 2006, 2007, began missing payments, and before you know it, it starts a ripple effect.
A ripple effect, a spin-off, where there could be another second crash once again, a double-dip recession. In fact, Ben Bernanke, the Federal Reserve Chairman, came out and predicted there'll be slow economic growth, and it'll be slowed down by 1 to 1.5% rather than 2% growth, which was already anemic to begin with.
That's
right.
That
means we're going to turn the growth back negative again. In two quarters of negative growth will be a recession once again. And we've got to really stop that and prevent that. But what's to be done? These Republicans are so far off the mark. Each side is not equally culpable. I believe that what's happened is that President Obama has offered to compromise. He says, give us some closing of loopholes so we can pay for some of these things without cutting them, and I'll go ahead and also reduce some of the increase in expenditures, even in some of the social programs, just to balance things out. And they say, no, it's all about cuts, Mr. President, cut, cut, cut. You've already had your tax increase, which, by the way, wasn't the full increase he was looking for. So this is a very unfair type of strategy that the right-wing Republican Tea Party is pushing really on us. And the rest of the Republicans aren't strong enough to stand up to that.
Peter, I do see shared responsibility, not simply because on this one issue, sure, I would tell you that on this one issue, we may be seeing a more definitive difference in positions, but historically, and more so of late, I think what I have seen in Congress is a malaise, if you will, kind of a let's wait till tomorrow. They talk about the mañana mentality. I think Congress has become that. I don't think you leave Washington till you do your business. Now, obviously, you cannot force people across the aisle to vote the way you want them to vote. But I do think that this sense of Washington feeling that life goes on, that's got to stop. I mean, will the sequester affect their payroll? I don't think so, Peter.
No, it won't. In fact, the Constitution doesn't allow Congress to cut its own pay or to increase its own pay. It only can vote for it for the next Congress. So that means there's no pay cut whatsoever as a punishment for not doing their duty. Some of them have voluntarily. One Republican says he's going to voluntarily cut his staff budget. Well, that's great. Lay off your staff members, but what about job done? Keep the staff and get the dang job done. That's what we got to be doing.
I love that solution. Can I get you to go up there and fix it for us?
We need someone to go up there, Dave. Believe me.
Professor Mathews, okay, so tomorrow this thing hits. Actually, in a few hours, tonight. All right. Tomorrow, I know America still has the sun come up, and it will appear to some like it's business as usual. How long do you think it is before we will start to truly get the sense as a nation, as a region here in Southern California, that all is not right, and we've got to right the ship? I mean, how long do you think it'll be? A week, 2 weeks, a month? Any predictions there?
Yes, definitely in a month it's going to really hit us hard, because all of the federal employees, the state government that gets money from the feds, all those tests will come up in a month, start hitting. But even before that, you'll see certain things like the meat inspection roll back, which means less meat on the table, less meat in the grocery stores, and more demand for meat, which means a higher price. That'll start happening within a couple of weeks. But the other ones will hit in about a month, about April 4th or so. You'll see some real major impact. Unless, again, the Congress and the President can get together and fix this within the next 3 or 4 weeks. They can still fix it, Dave, even after it hits.
You know what, Professor? I'll bring it down to the level of chicken. We've been talking at home about already people are beginning to complain about the price of chicken. Obviously, fuel has shot through the roof. The price of some of the basics, the basket items. It is as if people have used this as a pretext to already start increasing costs in what we call the food basket, the grocery basket. Would you not agree?
Absolutely. And the working people's income, close to half of it is spent on food now and on gas. And that cannot be sustained, because pretty soon people won't have money to pay the bills. And they already haven't. Many of them are stuck with not being able to pay the bills because they're trying to pay for the food and the gas. And those coupons don't add up, Dave. Those coupons they cut out of the newspaper, not nearly enough.
Yep.
So it's already happening. I'm telling you, it's time that the American people got together and started organizing a voting bloc to throw out the members of both parties who are not doing their job.
You've been talking about that. So is that what you're telling your political science students, or is that what they're telling you, that it's time?
That.
Yeah.
After studying the situation, they're coming up with solutions saying, we've got to take action. We've also got social media. We can put this on Facebook. We can put it on Twitter, and we can get it out to all our friends and say, get registered to vote, find out who your Congress member is, and call them and contact them and say, do your job, or we're throwing you out in 2014. One more thing I must mention. Already, the Organizing for America, the former Obama organization, is still in place with several 100,000 people, and they're right now gathering personal stories of people who are being affected by this sequester, and they're putting it out on Twitter, and they're putting it out on Facebook and all the different social media networks right now to get people to call their member of Congress. So there's a lot of help out there besides just our own contacts and friends personally.
Fascinating. Professor Peter Mathews, Cypress College political analyst, longtime television commentator. Thank you so much, Professor. Always a joy. We'll be bringing you back after the apocalypse. How's that?
Okay, Dave. Thank you so much.
You.
Take care. Hang in there.